Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. We are going to be doing February's block for 2026 Mistletoe Mystery. So this one is super cute. It is a little bell. We're going to be using some sweater-like material, and we are going to be using glitter. I'm going to throw in some metallic thread and see how that goes so that you guys can know how well that works. So let's change cameras real quick and show you all the goodies that we are using. All right, so we need a cool gray, a pine color, a red, and a white basically. So I am using ES240 for my pine. That's going to be the stripe on the bell. I'm going to use the metallic MA1, which is aluminum. And then I have my white. And then for my red, I'm going to use 187. This one's about gone, so I've got another spool. But that is the color I'm going to use. I'm going to do my quilting in neutral, natural, number 15. So that's going to be the quilting. And we've got the bell itself, the bow, which we're using this little sweatery knit material, and then the stripe on the bell. I've got my batting, and we are ready to go. When you load your design, you are going to choose the 6x6 Christmas. And that one is going to have little reindeers and little bells in there. So that's going to be there. And then you're going to select the bell itself. And that is centered. It does say center align right there. So we're going to just load that and leave everything right in the center of our hoop. And we are ready to go. So let's pop over to the machine. And we are going to get going. All right, I have no-show mesh in here. I do have a lightweight because I had a bunch in the drawer I need to use up. So I actually have 2 layers just to make sure that we are covered, but it is no-show mesh, of course, non-fusible. So the first stitch is the placement line for our batting. We're going to just jump right in and get that taken care of. All right, we're going to tack that down. This one is, of course, going to go around twice. Be right back. Okay, so we've went around there twice. We do need to trim, of course, that excess off. So let's pop over here and get that taken care of. All right, so we have our square of batting. Our next stitch is going to tell us where to place that fabric. As you guys are probably very aware, we definitely know how to do that, right? So I'm actually going to just go ahead and center this based on the look of the batting underneath. And then I'm going to jump down a stitch on my screen. So I'm going to hit my needle plus minus, and I'm going to go to the next one, which is going to simply base this in place. So I've skipped a stitch on my machine, and I have not done the placement line for where to put this fabric. I'm just going to do the tack down. That looks so nice. My dots are slightly curved, but that's going to be okay. All right, this next one is going to be our quilting stitch. This one's going to take just a couple minutes, so I'm going to pause for a second, and I will be back as soon as it's done. All right, we are all quilted. The next step is going to be the placement for our bell fabric, which is going to be the glitter. So with that glitter, it's very important that we remember to peel off the plastic. So bend that corner and get that top piece. Hopefully I'm going to go get my nails done from when I leave here and they won't be so long and unruly, or I can't actually do things. So we're going to peel that top piece off. So make sure that you do that before you place it underneath the needle, but let's get that placement line. I'm going to just leave that cream color in. It's not going to be a problem. The only hard part will be, of course, seeing where I'm supposed to put the actual piece of glitter. We are going to completely cover that guy up. And so sorry, pardon me. There is a decorative stitch going to go around this, but not yet. So we're going to, I'm still going to switch to, actually, I'm not. I'm going to do this in the cream color. I will be able to see it much better. If I were to put that metallic in right now, it would be very, very hard to see. So I'm just going to leave this so I can see my stitch line just a smidge easier. All right. From here, we are going to trim off. I'm so sorry, excuse me. We are going to go ahead and trim off that excess. So when it comes to glitter, I am going to tear. So I am just going to pull towards my stitches, and I will get a very nice clean edged line, and I don't have to get my scissors out. So there we go, all done, super quick, perfect trim line, and I didn't do a darn thing, which is fantastic. What we do want to do is press this in place. So we're going to take our plastic that we took off in the first place and cover that back up. Make sure that it is completely covered, and then take that over to your iron and press for about 15 seconds. Once you've got that pressed, you can go ahead and peel that off. We do not need this part anymore, so you can go ahead and throw that away. We're going to go back over to the machine and do the placement line for the bow. I have rethreaded. I do have my metallic in at this point. All right, so we're back at the machine with, I now have my metallic in. If you are using metallic, great. If you're not, it's going to be that light pale gray, whatever you have decided, but something that's going to look nice as an edging for this here. All right, let's do that placement line. This is going to tell us where to put our sweater fabric. Okay, with that placement line all done, we're going to get our kind of sweatery fabric. You should have a fusible on the back of this that will keep it from stretching and shifting. And this is directional. So the lines that are in the knit should be going vertically when you put that in. So make sure that you're not going this direction and you're covering up that line underneath. And we are still using that same light gray color. So we're going to do the placement line with that. So I'm just going to go ahead right with that. I am going to kind of hang on to this just to make sure it doesn't get caught anywhere or pushed. I want to make sure it stays nice and straight. Beautiful. Okay, it's going to go around twice because it's a tack down. Okay, we're going to leave your gray in still. We're going to trim and get rid of the excess sweater material. This is really cool. I think if I probably shifted that and did it at the end, I might even be able to get both bows out of the one piece from the embellishment kit. If instead of trying to center this, I use the edge instead, I might actually be able to get two out of one piece and then have another piece for, I don't know, whatever else you want to have this cute little red sweater material for. But I feel like I'm wasting something throwing all of this pieces away. Didn't think of that until after it's stitched. So here we are. All right. We've got a very cute bow going on here. The next thing that's going to stitch is the line around the bell, which is the nice heavy satin. So we are going to, again, if you are worrying about that thread, we want to have our gray. I am using metallic number MA1. It's going to take a minute. I'll be right back. Well, that turned out beautiful. So I now need to change to my dark green. So I'm going to remove my metallic. I was using the, again, color MA1. It's from the King Star line, which I love this thread because it literally, as you can see, stitched just like a standard thread, but you get that beautiful sheen of the metallic. So I just wanted to point that out in case any of you are not familiar. We have all of the King Star colors that are available. We do carry, and it literally sews just like regular thread. I have made lace out of it, so it's been in my bobbin and in my top thread, pardon my arm. And it just is a wonderful, wonderful thread to work with. So I highly recommend it if you want to have some glitter in your life. Here we go with the placement line for our green. It's going to go right across the center of the bell. Excuse me. Perfect. We have just a little piece of green. This is a solid, so there is no right side. Let's go ahead and tack that little man down. Of course, it will go around twice. We are approaching the end of this little guy here. He's going together nice and quickly. I love that. I love the different fabrics that we are getting to work with in here. I don't really use this much, but you definitely could take apart like old sweaters that either don't fit or maybe they have a bunch of fuzz yuck and you want to get rid of that. This would be a great way to use up some of that fabric. You could use it as we did on this. I do recommend putting a fusible on the back of any knits that you use, just so that it is going to be as clean as possible and not stretching and shifting underneath your needle, because of course we don't want that. All right, we're going to trim away the green, and then there is a light candle wicking stitch. I think it's candle wicking, but it's not satin. So we're going to stitch that and do the decorative stitch on there. All right, so here we go. This one shouldn't take too long, actually. I'll just go ahead and let it run. Coming around here, finishing up. we now need to change to our red. Again, I'm using number 187. A little tingle here. There we go. All right. 187 from the Exquisite. So ES 187. The actual color name of that one is Cherry. And I really like the way it looked with the sweater fabric, the knit in here. So we're going to get that in there. My arm's going to be in the way here in just a second. Apologies. Threader on this machine is way far back. Once you get used to it, it's super easy, but it's definitely back there. All right, so this is going to do some heavy stitching. We're going to do decorative around the edges, plus do like the little tie in the center. So it's going to take, my machine is showing 6 minutes. So going to do some little bit of decorative stitching here, and then we will be back. We are coming up on the final stitch of this bow. It is turning out absolutely beautiful. So this is just that last centerpiece, the circle in the middle, and then the bow will be finished. There is a couple of bells in the embellishment kit. So we're going to add a bell to the bottom of this once you have everything put together. You don't want to put that on until everything's been pieced. So just hang on to that and try not to lose it between now and the end of the year. And we'll add that literally right to that. So I also wanted to talk a little bit about the filler block. So there are a couple filler blocks. It's going to use 3 small squares of 2 of each of 3 different colors. And it is actually a little bit of folded fabric this time. So it's not the same as what it's been in the past. So I wanted to talk about that for a quick second. I'm not sure if it's going to fit at the bottom of the hoop or not, but we're going to try just so that you guys can see that. So I'm going to go grab what we need for that. So in my folder, let's find that little guy. Mystery quilt for February. So there is actually a square that we are going to use. So I'm kind of interested to see how the quilting goes along with it. So the filler block is 4.5 by just over 2.5. And we need to stitch that first. So I am going to set that to the screen here. And I am going to rotate it and hopefully be able to squeeze it at the bottom of my hoop here. So rotate. Perfect. And let's move that little buddy down. So I have taken the file and put it at the bottom of the hoop. So I'm hoping I'm going to stitch it right here. We're going to see if that will work. I'm going to do a little placement to make sure. So what we need to do is there's going to be 2 squares. One's going to be pretty side up. It'll tack that down. And then we put one pretty side down and then fold it over. It'll tack that seam. So you have a nice folded seam in the center. Once we have that, then we will stitch the quilting on top. So sorry, pardon. They don't have you putting batting in here, though. That's an interesting, slightly interesting. Well, that'll be a little different then, won't it? All right, well, here we go. We're going to give this a go anyways. I'm going to hit my embroidery. And I'm just going to do a placement just to make sure, like I said, I'm not going to end up stitching on top of my other block because, of course, I don't want to do that. Oh, so close. All right, let's take a peek, see what it's going to actually look like. It is going to be right on that line. We're going to give it a go anyways, because I want to do this for you guys so that you can see what's going to happen. It's going to literally be right on the line of that I left everything centered in the hoop. I didn't move it up. And now I'm squeezing at the bottom, but we're going to make that work and it's okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is placement lines for that first piece of fabric, but I currently have red thread in and a whole bunch of red all over here. Wow. That sweater was very sheddy. All right. I am going to, I think, put in my, what am I going to put in? I'm going to put in my quilting natural color that I've been using, and we'll see how that works. And you guys can say, oh, that was not a good idea, and do it a different way if you don't like how it turns out. I am going to do one of the three just so that you can see how these go together. All right. So the first thing it's going to do is the placement line for the entire block. So it's going to be tight. All right, so that is, I know it's a little difficult to see the white on the white, but that is going to be where we're going to place all of our fabrics. So when you do a folded fabric technique, the first thing that you are going to do is the bottom piece of fabric. So that is going to be our green here. I need to cover up that bottom section here. Yep. And it's going to do a stitch line. All right. I'm going to trim at that stitch line. And sometimes when you do a folded fabric, you can get away with leaving the fabric there. This particular one, and I'm just following the guide in the pictures and the instructions that say which ones to put where. So I'm just following that. So this section is just going to have this white piece. So you don't want any more than absolutely necessary showing underneath that, because that's going to be a different color, right? It's going to show that green just a little bit underneath this white. So I need to make sure that my edges are going to go over the stitched edge. And then it's going to, oops, got to put the hook back in. Sorry, hang on. And then it's going to stitch that down, and then I'm going to flip it over here. So if this was, it is not a solid. I thought it was. This is a snowflake pattern. So make sure that the pretty side is down. I just got lucky. So I thought this was a white on white, but it's not. Okay. Well, I guess it kind of is, depending on how you're describing it. We're going to now take this and we're going to flip it over. So a lot of times this is where we would use our fabric folding pen, which has starch, and we can do this. Mine is, of course, nowhere to be found, but I am going to roll that seam. So I'm going to fold that over, and I'm going to press that with my roller. Now, you could, of course, take this to an iron as well, but this is going to do a pretty dang good job. And for where it's going, it's going to be just fine. So now what it's going to do is go around. Right on that edge up there. Okay. So when you're doing this, we're going to make 3 of these, and they're not all going to look like this. There's different colors going to go there. Follow the pattern that are in the directions. So that is all there is to putting this in. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to load your quilting pattern. We could have done this at the same time. I'm following how the directions are listed. So we're going to go back home. We're going to grab the quilting pattern, which again is going to be in that folder. You were provided all of the quilting patterns for these. So go back into the February folder, and you want the 2x4. Helps if you go in the right folder. I hit January. Sorry. Back, please. February. Here we go. You want the 2x4. And it's a reindeer and a snowflake. So we're going to just grab that. We're going to set that to the screen. I need to rotate that 90 degrees, just like I did the previous. And I need to move that all the way down to the bottom of my hoop. I am going to double check because I need to make sure I'm exactly lined up with where it was. And on this machine, I can do that pretty easily, which is awesome. I'm just going to project that down. Camera's going to come on. And I'm not really sure why somebody put yellow on there, but that is atrocious and very hard to see. There we go. All right. So I need to take my move arrows, and I need to bump up just a smidgen until I'm lined up with my stitch line. Okay. That looks pretty dang good. So what I'm looking at is right down here. Let's see if I can move that view for you guys. I am looking to make sure that these lines match up with what I've already stitched. So I need to come up just a smidgen. There we go. All right, that looks pretty dang good right on top of where I was. So I am good. What I would recommend for you guys is when you go to add this, either add it at the same time that you do the box, and then it'll just stitch later, which is absolutely fine. Or you can just put them centered in the hoop and don't move it. So when you actually put in the quilting file that builds this part, and then the decorative quilting file that does the reindeer part, center them just like we did here. Load one, load the second, they'll line up right on top of one another, and you're good to go. So that way you don't have to worry about it, which is what I'm having to do right now. So I am very comfortable with where I'm at on that. I'm going to go ahead and stitch. So it says we need to stitch that quilting design on top. So here's the reality is I really only need the center part. So I am just going to jump down to that. You can certainly stitch them all if you would like. It's going to do the squaring stitches, but we already have those. It does have batting lines in there, just like any quilting, but of course we can't do that because we already have the fabric. So a lot of times what I will do on this, when I want to put that batting in there, I actually will load both designs and then jump around, and I will stitch the batting lines up to adding the batting, and then I'll switch to the fabric folding file, put down the fabric, and then go back to the quilting file. So I have definitely done that before. I am stitching a little reindeer here, and then there's a little swirl, and then there's going to be a little snowflake down here. I don't need all of the other things because I've already got my fabric down. But if you would like to make sure there's batting in here, you certainly can do that. And that will be basically the hard part, if you will, because you would want to jump around the design. So load the reindeer 2x4 quilt file, then load the fabric folding file, stitch through placing the batting, then stop. Go to your needle plus minus, jump forward to the fabric folding lines, place your fabrics, tack them down, and then go back in your needle plus minus, go back to the quilting design, which is here, which will give you batting underneath. I hope sincerely that that helped you guys instead of confused you guys. It was definitely a little bit of a different something, so I wanted to make sure that I showed it. The other fabrics that you are going to be using, so you have basically Christmas colors here. You've got a red stripe, you've got the snowflake, and white on white, and then you have the green. So you're going to be switching those around. And in your instructions, you get the layout right here of what pieces go where. So you don't have to guess, you just follow those instructions and you'll be all set. Once it's in the quilt, then we can add in the bell and everything onto the actual block itself. So hopefully that helped. You guys know you can always reach out to me, and I am more than happy to answer some questions or give you some guidance if you're struggling on something. Like I said, this was a little bit different, so I wanted to make sure that we talked about it. Please feel free to call anytime, and happy stitching.